Today we're going to be learning Yevamot Daf Tzadi Gimel. We're going to do a quick review of the end of yesterday's daf. Rabbi Yochanan had said that they took a vote and they decided that Ein Kiddushin Tofsim b'Yevamah. If a Yevamah, a woman who's supposed to do yibum, ends up marrying somebody else instead of the yabam, the marriage is not valid at all, right? Which would mean she doesn't need a divorce from him, and right, it's just not a valid marriage. To which Rabbi Yochanan said, didn't we learn that already from a Mishna? To which they said, right, where it said, if you say you'll be betrothed to me after you do chalitza, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because, again, it's Ein Kiddushin Tofsim, and if Ein Kiddushin Tofsim, if it wouldn't be valid if you did it right then, at that moment, before she does chalitza, then you can't say now I'll do it for after you do chalitza, because that's creating a kinyan on something that never was in existence in this world, because there's no possibility for you to do it. And that's based on Ein Kiddushin Tofsim. To which, right, so Rabbi Yochanan had an answer why it wouldn't be necessarily clear from the Mishna, and I told you this so that you know that was the Mishna. That's what the Mishna meant, to which Reish Lakish said, if Rabbi Yochanan hadn't explained the Mishna in that way, I would have thought that the Mishna is just Rabbi Akiva's opinion, who holds that Ein Kiddushin Tofsim b'chai ve'lavim, and then it wouldn't teach us, right? Because in any lo taseh, like lo tia esha named chutza leish zar, which is our case, she can't go marry anybody else. There's no Kiddushin Tofsim, but it doesn't teach you about the rabbi's opinion to disagree with him and what they would think about a Yevamah. It's just Rabbi Akiva. To which the Gemara says, it can't be Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva holds, yes, he might hold, Ein Kiddushin Tofsim b'chai ve'lavim, but when it comes to davar shelo ba la'olam, it has to be the combination of the two. He thinks you can actually make a kinyan, an acquiring of something that's not in existence right now. So even though, according to him, Ein Kiddushin Tofsim, you could still say, once you take care of this, though, you'll be betrothed to me, and the Kiddushin is valid because a person is can acquire something, not allowed to, but it's effective if they acquire something that's not in this world. From where do we know that Rabbi Akiva says this? And that's where our draft starts. It's not konam shani oseh lepicha ein tzarich la'afeh. A woman who says anything that I produce will not be able to go in your mouth, meaning the husband cannot be permitted to eat it, to benefit from it in that way. Ein tzarich la'afeh. The husband doesn't need to nullify that vow because that vow is irrelevant. Why is the vow irrelevant? We're not yet up to Ein Adam Davar Makneh Shelo Ba La'olam. We're just on why this is an irrelevant vow, because her Ma'aseh Yadayim, anything she makes, goes straight to him. So therefore, it's obviously she has no rights to forbid it to him. She can only forbid something that's hers, not hers. Remember, we learned about that the Ma'aseh Yadayim go to the husband. Rabbi Akiva Omer Yafel Shema Ta'adif Alav Yoter Min Ha'ra'oi. He can nullify the vow, and the vow is valid. Why is that? Because she can, if she makes more than a certain amount, that extra goes to her. So now she can say whatever is above and beyond that's mine. Now, that vow has a place, lachul, as they say. It will be valid on the part that's the hadafan. Now that doesn't exist yet because she hasn't made any money yet. She's saying on the future, anything I make, which again, it's not going to refer to the basic income, but it does refer to the extra. And then here we see she can talk about something and make a vow about it, which means she has ownership rights to it, of something shelo ba la'olam that's not in existence yet. That's Rabbi Akiva. So the Gemara rejects this, or at least questions it, or just points out that not everybody agrees with this understanding. Ha'itmar was already said about the Mishna. Amar Apuna b'reit Rav Yoshua. He says, "Ba'omeret yikadshu yadai le'osehem." The yadayim idnu ba'alma. What she was saying is, my hands will be forbidden to you. My hands, meaning anything that my hands do. That, now your hands are in this world. Since the language of the vow is about her hands itself, it's not just about her income, it's about her hands and whatever her hands do, and that is a valid vow. It has nothing to do with something that's not yet in this world, because the hands are in this world. He understands it in a different way, but he disagrees with Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak had a different understanding of it, as we saw before. And that's the explanation we brought before that shows that Rabbi Akiva holds a person can acquire something that's not yet in existence in this world. It's a very big principle. It comes up in the Gemara a lot, because when we talk about kinyanim and acquiring things, you have to know what type of things can you acquire. And Rav Nachman is now going to give us a list of people who all learned from one another, but they each independently stated this. And then we're going to see where each one independently stated this. And that will take us to close to the end of the daf, which is Huna ki Rav ki Rabbi Yanai ki Rabbi Chia, Rabbi ki Rabbi ki Rabbi Meir ki Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov ki Rabbi Akiva. Okay, each of these learned from someone else, and they each say this. So now we're going to go one by one, starting from the beginning. And ki Rabbi Akiva, I just didn't finish the line. Adam makneh davar shelo ba la'olam. Somebody can acquire something that's not yet in existence in this world. Again, these are the people who side on the side of yes. Many people who side on the side of no. Rav Huna, Maihi. So where does Rav Huna say this? Deitma. It says, Hamochel perot dekel lechavero. If I sell you the fruits of my palm tree, there's no fruits on it yet. So I sell you the fruits. Amar Rav Huna. Ad shelo ba'u la'olam yachol lachzor. As long as there's no fruits on the tree, even though Rav Huna, we're going to see, holds, I can give you something, I can acquire something or sell you something that's not in existence in this world. But even though I can, if the fruits are not yet there, I can change my mind at any point, because it has to go on something. And right now the fruits aren't in existence. But as soon as they come into existence, he says, Mishabau la'olam, once they're fruits on the tree, I can't change my mind. Can't say, oh, I didn't really mean to sell them to you, because my kinyan, when I gave them to you originally, I gifted them to you, however I gave it to you, or I sold them to you, then that was valid. So I can't change my mind about it once the fruits are there. Till the fruits, no, but once the fruits are there, what I said then was valid, even though they weren't in existence yet. But Rav Nachman amar, af mishabau la'olam yachol lachzor. Rav Nachman says, no, you can change your mind at any point, even once the fruits are on the tree, because whatever you said was totally invalid, because your fruits didn't exist in the world. So again, he's on the other side of the argument. Amar Rav Nachman, however, he adds though, Modina, I do agree though, if I sold you those fruits and then you ate them and then I changed my mind, well, whatever you ate already, I can't take back. If you ate them before I changed my mind, then they're yours. So it's not like it's a totally invalid sale, but it's only invalid in the sense that I can't take it out of your hands, but you also can't take it without, like, if you took it, then I don't get it from you. This is a whole principle in general, that once you have the money in your hand, the other person has to really prove it's not yours. And since this is kind of in between, so he'll admit in that case. But in general, he doesn't think that you can acquire something that's not in this world. Rav, what about him? Rav Huna stated in the name of Rav, if I say to my friend, this field I'm about to purchase, as soon as I purchase it, it will be yours starting now. Meaning the second I acquire it, it's already retroactively yours from the moment. Now, it's not really me'achshav, but it's from the exact moment that I buy it, it immediately becomes yours. Kana, it works. This, you will acquire it, even though it's lo ba la'olam, because it's not mine. How can I be selling you something I don't own yet? Rabbi Yanai ki Rabbi Chia. Here we're going to get more of a story. Rabbi Yanai havalei arisa. He had a sharecropper. He would bring him a basket full of fruits every Erev Shabbat. Okay, right? He's a sharecropper, so part of those stuff is the owner's, and right, he takes some for himself, but then he brings some to the owner. One Friday afternoon, it was starting to get dark, and he had to get come. And what's the problem? The problem is when he shows up and brings me my fruits, right, to Rabbi Yanai can't take Truma to Masla, because on a rabbinic level, you're not allowed to take Truma. For rabbinic law, you can't take Truma to Masla on Shabbat because it looks like you're fixing something. Okay, you can't fix a utensil by taking Truma to Masla. It's as if you're fixing them. So he says, he said, Shakil Aser Mipere de Beite Alai. What did he do? He took masrot from his house. He took some produce from his house and said, I'm using this as the tithes for the fruits that are hopefully on the way to me. Now, why do I say hopefully? Because he doesn't really know that they're coming. They usually come, but on the other hand, they haven't gotten here yet. Maybe he hadn't picked them yet, maybe, right? And then they won't be obligated to maseh. Maybe he's not bringing any. So yet, right? When he shows up with the fruits, we could say that this was valid, even though theoretically, maybe they were still attached to the ground at the time and they weren't, you can't take maser on something attached to the ground. So only if you say you can do a kinyan on something shelo ba'al olam, it will be effective. So he does this. But then he wanted to check with the rabbi that it was okay, even though he himself was a rabbi, but I guess he wasn't sure about it. Rabbi Chia says, it was good that you did that. You did the right thing. Now here you see, by the way, this was Rabbi Yanai. We said from Rabbi Chia, he learned it. And here you see it. Tanya, how does he know this is the right thing to do? Because it says, it's pasuk about eating the maaser and all that, and all the stuff about maaser in the pasuk, and then it says, "Leman tamad l'yad Hashem lokecha kol hayamim," so you come to fear God all of your days. What do they explain this to mean? Elu Shabbatot v'yamim tovim. This means Shabbat and Yamim tovim, meaning don't prevent yourself from oneg Shabbat because you didn't take truma mascha. Now, lemai, what does this mean? Lemai hilchata. If this means you can take your truma maschot on Shabbat, you can tithe the produce, which I told you was forbidden by rabbinic law. Well, it's your kral, the Mishrei Total to Rabbanan. You don't need a pasuk to tell you you can do a rabbinic prohibition. Pasukim are written about Torah laws, not about rabbinic laws. So it can't be this pasuk is referring to that. Turning now to Amabet, elalav ki agav. That must be our case where you tithe the produce, even though you don't know for sure that the produce is even in existence. So again, you see he holds, right? Adam makneh davar shelo ba'al olam. Both Rabbi Chia, who approved of this, and Rabbi Yanai, who did it. Amar le, but then, presumably this was the next day, he says to him, but wait, ha'ikriyon b'chelma, I saw in a dream, kaneh ratzutz, a bruised reed. My love, he took it as a sign based on this pasuk, which is talking about what Sancherev says to Chizkiyahu toward the end of Sefer Melachim, the book of Kings. What's going to bring your downfall is that you relied on the king of Egypt. This kaneh ratzutz, bruised reed, which is not going to get you anywhere. So he said, I took that as a sign that I relied on you, and you're a broken reed. And what was I doing relying on you? So he says, lo, no. This is what it means. There's a different kaneh ratzutz, a different verse about it. The dream you saw was referring to kaneh ratzutz lo yishbol. A bruised reed will not break. Upshtakeh lo yechaben. Okay, and also about the flax. The point is that you were relying on something that won't, even though it seems weak, it's not at all weak. Okay, that was just an aside. Back to our topic about other people who hold you can acquire things that are not in this world yet. Rebbe detanya lo taskir eved al adonav. So it says, this is pasuk, you can't work a slave to its master. Okay, you can't force him to work for his master. What are we talking about here? Rebbe Omer, belokach eved amanat l'shacharo katuv medaber. It's talking about someone who purchases a slave on the and he stipulated that he was going to free him, and then you can't make that slave work, as it says. So what's the case? Rav Nachman he writes in a document, when I purchase you, you will buy yourself, meaning you'll be free. So there we see Rabbi Meir. We're getting toward the end of our list. Not yet, we're getting there. Rabbi Meir Titznan, Omer Lisha. This is exactly what we saw before. We're going to read it again, but now we're going to see Rabbi Meir disagrees. Omer Lisha, after I convert. Right? You'll be betrothed to me after I convert, after you convert, after I'm freed, or after you get freed, after your husband dies, after your sister dies, because I can't marry you and your sister. Right? As long as your sister's alive, I can't marry you. So once your sister dies, I'll be able to marry you. Right? Your sister's my wife. After your Yevamot does chalitza for you, and a mekudeshet, because these are all things that are not yet in existence, right? He can't actually betroth any of those people. But Rabbi Meir Omer mekudeshet, he says, no, it actually is valid, even though it's davar she'eino ba'al olam. It's not yet in existence. The situation, right, is not yet permitted to him. They're not Jewish, or they're not this, or whatever it might be. they're still an Eishadish, a married woman, or whatever it is. So Rabbi Meir says Mekudeshet, right? Oh, by the way, the sister, even if he's not married to the sister anymore, still he can't marry her sister as long as she's still alive. So it could be he's divorced from the sister, but he's saying after she dies, then I'll marry you, right? It's more likely than he's still married to her. Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov ditan. Yeter al ken amar Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov afilu im amar perot aruga zo tlushim. Yehu truma al perot aruga mechubarim. If he says the fruits in this area, which are uprooted from the ground, will be truma for the fruits there that are still attached to the ground, which are considered davar she'eino ba'al ha'olam, because in the world of Maser, they're not obligated yet in Maser. And, or he says, O perot aruga, the reverse case, mechubarim, or I'm going to take truma from these attached to the ground fruits, al perot zo tlushim, on those that are detached, when they reach a third of their ripening, and they're ripened a third of the way, and I remove them from the ground, then it will apply. And as soon as they ripened a third of the way and they were picked, it's valid. So again, it's davar she'eino ba'al ha'olam because they weren't obligated to get a mas. Rabbi Akiva, we already saw, ditnan konam shani osaraticha. That's where we started today. She forbids whatever she's going to her income to him. Eino tzarich la'afer. He doesn't need to nullify the vow. Rabbi Akiva says yafel shemata adif alav yeter menaga oilo, because theoretically she can make more money, that some of it will be hers, and the neder will be applicable to that which is not even yet in existence in the world. And with that, we finished that whole sugya. That's where we started today, and that's where we're ending right now, this section. We're going to end with Baal Minei by Rav Sheshet. They asked Rav Sheshet a question. We're going to have two versions of the question. The first version is, Eid Echad Yevamah Mahu. When we say Eid Echad allows us to say the man is dead and the woman can get remarried, that was our basic case, can it allow a woman to do yibum, one witness? To which they say, here are the two sides. Do we say Tama de Eid Echad, and now we're going to have a new reason for Eid Echad. The reason we believe one witness is why Mishum de Milta David de Legalui Elo Mashakir, when it's something that will ultimately be revealed. Meaning, it's a fact he's testifying about, and it's something that if somebody murdered someone else, maybe, and one witness says he murdered him, we don't know, and no one will ever really know because it's an event that happened. But if it's something, is the person alive or dead? Eventually, the person will show up on the scene. So you're not going to lie about something that eventually you'll look like an idiot if the guy shows up. What were we talking about that you were lying? So maybe that's why we believe him. And this is generally a principle where if it's something that will become clear over time, generally we do believe people who might not necessarily be believed otherwise. Hachanami lo mashakir. So it's the same thing here. We still believe this one witness to allow her to marry the yabam, right? To say, the son, right? He has no sons, or he died first and the son died second, or just we knew the guy had no sons and it's just that he died, to permit her to marry the yabam. Or Dilma is the reason, like we saw before, is it because we assume she's going to do her homework well? She's not going to rely only on the one witness because she doesn't really want her husband dead. She wants to be married to him. It's much easier for her to stay married than it is to go find someone else. But maybe in this case, maybe she likes her brother-in-law, and it's just as easy, right? She's already kind of destined to do yibum with him, and it's kind of easy. So you know what? She'll say, "Oh, one witness said he said I'll just marry the brother." It's very different than going out to find somebody new. Okay, soon we're going to say something the opposite of this, but right now they're suggesting this. So Amarlu Rav Sheshet, Tanitua, let's learn it from our Mishna. What did it say in our Mishnah? Amrule mepedech, v'acharkach mepalech. At first the son died, and then the father dies. The husband dies, v'nit yabma, and they do yibum. V'acharkach amru la'chiluf advarim, and then they tell her, oh, the opposite was in fact true. Teitzei v'avlad harishon v'acharo mamzer. So you have to get divorced, and the kids are all mamzerim. Hechidami, what's the case? Ilem atreyu trey. If it was two witnesses who said he was dead, and he died first, and then it was the son died first, and then two witnesses who say, no, it was the father who died first. Why would we believe one over the other? And then say for sure she was married to the first and not the second, and blah, blah, blah. Right? In other words, she wasn't obligated in yibum, and therefore she has to get divorced from him, etc. Mamzel, safek mamzeru. If that's the case, the child should be only a safek mamzer, not a vadai mamzer, because maybe, right, we don't know who's right. So if you want to say v'chitem alo dak, maybe when they said mamzer, they meant safek mamzer. No, because at the continuation of the Mishnah, mitikatan is seifa, harishon mamzer, v'acharon eino mamzer, shma min hadafka katani. Here they start specifying, he's a mamzer, he's not a mamzer. If you remember, when we said he's not a mamzer, some people say he's a safek mamzer. He's maybe he's a mamzer de Rabbanit. So it seems like they're pretty clear about this, and it's a definite mamzer. To which they say, and therefore, since it can't be two witnesses that came forward and said, first the son died and then the father died, and that's why you did yibum, and then two witnesses said otherwise, it must be, it must be it was one witness. And then, what was the Mishnah? The Mishnah said, well, it's only we get into a situation here because two came and went against it and said, oh, in fact, the son died first and the father died second. And then, the son died second, the father died first, and you really weren't obligated in yibum, and that's why we get into the sticky situation. But halav hachi, but if the two witnesses hadn't come, we'd have believed the one witness, she would have been able to do yibum. So here you see, you can do yibum. So we have a clear answer from our Mishnah. Ikeda amre, some people say, oh, that wasn't the question. Halo tibailach, that wasn't the question. Why is that not a question even? Because she herself is even believed. How do we know that? It's not. If she says, I know my husband died, we allow her to get married based on her own testimony. Now, this assumes she has other children, and then she goes marries to anyone she wants. If she says, and she has no sons, she does yibum. So we can even rely on her. So clearly that's not a question. Obviously, we'll rely on one witness to allow her to do yibum. And we're not worried that, she really wants to just marry her yabam, and that's why she's just, that's why we're relying on this one witness, like we said before. The question was, it's to permit her to go get married, to say the opposite. Or believe one witness in a case where he has sons, or believe one witness that the sons died second, that he died first and then the sons died, and he died with children, in which case she can go marry anyone she wants. There's no obligation of yibum. Now here we're going to prove the reverse logic as before. First part's the same. My time, what's the reason? To Eid Echad. Why do we believe Eid Echad? Maybe it's because, they generally don't lie, and therefore, because it eventually will come out, and therefore we'll believe him here too. Dilmor, maybe we say Tama de Eid Echad mishum de'i daiko minsiba. V'halo daiko minsiba. Normally we assume she does her homework well. In this case, when we heard the husband died and that the son died after, and therefore she's obligating yibum, well, she's not going to check into it too much. She's going to say, I'm going to get married to somebody else because she hates her brother-in-law and she wants to have nothing to do with him, right? People either have strong, loving relationships with their family and sometimes very difficult relationships with other family members, in-laws in particular, right? Brothers-in-law, for example. So, again, not to say it's always the case, but yes, you could see that she in no way wants to marry that brother-in-law, and therefore she's going to rely on that testimony and just go get married without checking into it. And that will be a problem because we're relying not just on the one witness, but the fact that she's doing her homework as well. And in this case, she might not do it. And therefore, can we allow her to get married to anybody else, right? Anyone other than the yabam? Based on this, I'm going to leave you with that question. We will get to this answer in tomorrow's class. Have a great day, everybody.